Welcome to Hot Shot Sports, where the takes are hot and the hosts are even hotter. Today we've got NBA playoffs, the MLB season, and a little Masters talk. Stay tuned for Hot Shot Sports. Welcome to Hot Shot Sports. The NBA playoffs start on Saturday the 14th, and with such little in the season left, but still a lot left to be decided. What do you guys think is going to happen in the playoffs?
NBA playoffs. It's going to be interesting because a couple seeds still have to be decided. You have the Philadelphia and Cleveland who are battling for the 3 seed. One of them's get the 3, one of them get the 4. And then Milwaukee, Miami, and Washington, it all kind of mixed up there. Milwaukee can't drop to the 8, but they can go 6 or 7. Miami could be 7 or 8. So you just have a bunch of teams jumbled up. So we'll see what happens here the last 2 days of the regular season.
Yeah, I think the East is kind of interesting with a lot of young teams just starting to prove themselves now with the Sixers, the Bucks, coming up. But I just think that playoff LeBron is playoff LeBron, and that, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone can take him out in the East. But in the West, I think it'll be very interesting to see if Kawhi Leonard just decides to play for the Spurs, maybe now that the playoffs have started. I think that could be a team that could upset some Rockets, Warriors. I don't know. We'll see.
For me, I'm thinking all about my Wolves playing the Nuggets right now on tomorrow. That's got me a little nervous. The Nuggets have been hot. Jokic has been playing out of his mind, which is concerning, but I'm really hoping that they can hang on, get that win, and slip in as that 8 seed. That'd be really nice.
And especially in the East, with the 2 seed Boston's, with Kyrie being out there, kind of a cakewalk. And so it's interesting to see and think what the conference finals will be, because while Toronto's been playing really well all season, it's Toronto. They've failed in the playoffs before, and you never know if they'll fail again. So it could be a Cleveland-Philadelphia conference finals, and I don't think that's outrageous.
I don't think it's interesting too with Boston though, because we keep saying they're a cakewalk. Bucks fans have wanted the 7 seed so they can play Boston, but they have Brad Stevens, a guy who should get Coach of the Year, and there's a reason he should get Coach of the Year. And yes, they're going to be without Hayward and Irving, and some of they're obviously their best players, but you just can't count them out because of that coach, because of their 54-26 regular season. So it'll be interesting, but I think yes, Boston will be worse, but I think they still have a shot no matter who they play.
I completely agree with that Brad Stevens thing. I think he's Coach of the Year, and I think you can't look past that in the playoffs, where coaching really becomes more part of the game, I feel like, than the regular season. And I think the other thing, everyone looking at Philly with this win streak and everything, Eastern Conference Finals, I'm not necessarily sold on all of that. They're super inexperienced. The only guy in the playoffs or has playoff experience was, J.J. Redick, which, I don't know. They're a talented team, but I'm not too sold on them going anywhere too far in the playoffs this year.
Agreed. I think that Philly is terrifying after that 14-game win streak, but you can't count out the playoffs and the experience. And as you were saying earlier, LeBron, he's a whole different animal in the playoffs. He's doing his whole thing where he's going dark in the playoffs and no social media, no anything. He's just all about basketball. So, you never know how that's going to shape up.
I want to get your guys' opinion on Golden State, who's been playing without Steph Curry for the longest time, and they seem somewhat vulnerable. Do you think that they could lose even before the conference finals?
There's a lot of decent teams in the West this year, because obviously a lot of them are fighting for playoff spots, and you have Minnesota and Denver playing to fight. And so whoever they play, it's going to be difficult. Right now, if the season ended today, they'd play Oklahoma City. But I think they're vulnerable just because of some of their injuries. Like you said, Steph Curry is probably going to miss that first series. But I think they're the Warriors. They just have talent, and they have a great coach in Steve Kerr. So I think there's a chance they don't make it, but I think I'd bet on them to go farther than go to the conference finals than not.
Yeah, I think they'll still make the conference finals. I do think they'll make the finals ultimately, either way, with the Rockets playing as good as they are. Even with Steph out, you have Kevin Durant, Draymond, Klay, and you have the system they play in. The Warriors move the ball around. It's not just about the talent. It's about the way they play. And I think we need to actually see Houston against Golden State. We've been robbed of that the past couple of years. We really need to see that to see if anyone can hang with the Warriors, because without that, I think it's just another Golden State finals appearance.
For me, I think it spells trouble if they have to play OKC in the first round. We know that Kevin Durant gets hot-headed when he has to go against his old squad, especially with Russell. I mean, that always goes down. And I saw a stat, the 5 games that Durant has gone off and scored the most, Golden State is 0-5. So that's always a concern. But, I mean, it's Golden State. You have 4 superstars on the team, and they're going to be tough to beat, regardless.
Well, switching from the end of a season to the beginning of the season, it's about 2 weeks into the MLB season, and things are a little bit different than what people were expecting. I want to get your guys' opinion on how the MLB season has started.
Yeah, it is interesting. A couple teams, or at least one team that was expected to do well, the Boston Red Sox made some, signing J.D. Martinez and also doing some other things over the offseason. They're 8-1, so that's a good start for them. Otherwise, Houston as well, 9-2. But some of the surprise teams, like you said, the New York Mets, the team that's 8-1, kind of been waiting for the Mets to be good, especially with that pitching staff. And then the Pirates as well. I know they were playing the Cubs earlier, and if they won, they'd be 8-2. So Pirates, I don't know about them necessarily. They got rid of Andrew McCutchen, but they did get some good players from the Rays. So we'll see. And then the Diamondbacks 8-2 as well. So some good and some bad.
Yeah, I never try to look too far into the early stuff with baseball, with how many games they actually do play. So I mean, what are we in, like 9-10 games here? So I don't want to go too crazy. But the one thing that kind of stands out to me this year so far is the Dodgers being 3-6 with all that talent on that team. You would think that they would have a little better start than they have so far. But again, like I said, it's a little too early to start freaking out about it. So I definitely think that they'll right the ship. But that's the one team that really kind of surprised me so far.
Yeah, definitely with baseball, long season, 162 games, and then you have a super talented team like the Dodgers starting off 3-6, but then you have a team that on paper doesn't look that talented in the Pirates, and then they're going hot. And baseball is so streaky. You can go on a hot streak and then you can fall, so it's up in the air right now, but I'm loving what I'm seeing out of my Red Sox right now. Absolutely.
Yeah, something that's interesting to me in the NL Central, like you said, the Pirates are 7-2, and you would think that wouldn't happen because they traded away their best player, Andrew McCutchen. And so I think in the NL Central things will shift itself out. I think the Cubs and Brewers will be at the top 2 teams in the NL Central. Another interesting thing to me is the Indians. While 5-5 isn't necessarily a terrible start, with all the talent, the pitching that they have, you would think that they'd be doing a lot better. So it's interesting to me that they started out on a mediocre start.
Yeah, none of those teams in the AL Central are really starting all that well. Cleveland and Minnesota really tied. They're both 500, and then the rest of the teams are under 500. The Tigers, the Royals, and the White Sox. So really, the AL Central is shaping out to be, through 10 games, but shaping out to be, kind of a mediocre division so far. We'll see. And Cleveland had one of the best records in baseball last year.
Yeah, kind of sticking to the American League, one of the things that stood out to me was obviously Giancarlo Stanton being on the Yankees now. And all the strikeouts and kind of the underperforming he's done is just, I feel like it's more elevated since he's in New York and the whole media and everything, and they're going to really focus on him a lot. But I'm curious to see if he'll actually be able to have the season we're accustomed to him, having with all those home runs and everything like that.
Yeah, since opening day, he's hitting 108. He's 4 for 37.
It's not great. Terrible. Not in New York. It's not going to get it done.
37.
And especially in a hitter's ballpark like Yankee Stadium, like it's maybe last season was a fluke.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see. Easy predict. We're going to see a lot of bombs and a lot of strikeouts from that lineup. It's all power, and it's a small stadium, and it's going to be a fun show to watch, but there's going to be a lot of Ks.
There's going to be a lot of Ks. Moving on, the Masters finished this past weekend. And while lots of people were excited about Tiger Woods returning to the Masters, he didn't do terrible. He made the cut, but he was not one of the leaders. Patrick Reed ended up winning he was 15 under, played great all weekend. What are your guys' take on the Masters?
It was interesting. Good to see Tiger back out there in a major. Really fun to see him back, and just kind of made it interesting again. I know if you're not like a diehard golf fan, I think now with Tiger back in it, you kind of pay more attention. At least I found myself doing it. I'm not a huge golf guy, and it's always fun to watch the end, the Sunday at the Masters. Always like kind of an iconic day. And Speith up there again at 13 under. Ricky Fowler. Seems like Ricky Fowler can get almost there, but he just can't get over that hump.
Same thing happened at the Open, at the U.S. Open this past year.
Definitely. Definitely. I feel like the Masters always has surprises. You never quite know how it's going to play out every single year. And obviously Patrick Reed winning it was one of the biggest surprises of the obviously entire thing. And I thought what was interesting was that it didn't seem like a lot of people were too happy with Patrick Reed winning this Masters. And like he's not a huge fan favorite. Doesn't seem to be the most likable guy necessarily. He was under some scrutiny that he doesn't really have a great relationship with his family and all of that. So I don't know. I found that interesting. But at the same time, not a huge name that's going to win a championship like that, you're going to have stuff in the past brought up, so it's easy to see where that comes through. But it was definitely an interesting Masters, at least.
I mean, he was wearing that gorgeous pink shirt that just looked lovely.
It was beautiful.
And yeah, that was nice. But to me, it just seemed like the Masters had a little bit more drama this year, obviously with Tiger coming back, as you guys mentioned. And, it just seemed like there was more going on than usual.
Especially with Jordan Spieth, he had a wonderful final round. He shot 64, but ended up being 2 back. I think he birdied like 6 out of the last 9 holes, or 6 out of the last 8 holes. He was doing fantastic, but just ended up a little short. You mentioned Patrick Reed's pink shirt. What do you guys think about the controversy that Nike made Patrick Reed wear a pink shirt instead of the red shirt that Tiger has kind of trademarked a bit?
I mean, when it comes to Nike golf, like Tiger is Nike golf, even with the past indiscretions, but whatever. But I think, it's not that big of a deal making him wear a pink shirt, and he looks so darn good in it, right? You can't get past that.
Yeah, I think as long as you look good in it, nothing else really to talk about with that. So,
I think so. I don't know. It's interesting though. I think because didn't he originally wear red? That was the reason.
Yeah, he
switched, right?
he originally wore red.
So no, I guess Tiger really has that sponsorship with Nike. They don't want to lose that.
Yeah, they do not want to lose him. Well, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to play a couple games: 3 tiers, Jeers, Tears, mail time, a little bit of buy or sell. But first, we're going to take a look at some of those perfect pets.
Hi, I'm Sven. I'm a 1-year-old lab mix with tons of energy, and I am very eager to please, so please adopt me. Please.
Hi, I'm Mocha, a 5-year-old mastiff with lots of love to give. I love to frolic and wiggle my butt, but keep those ankle biters away from me.
Hello, I'm Eva, a 1-year-old beagle. I love to play with my football even though I'm a frequent fumbler. My irresistible face will be the perfect addition to your child-free home.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. In this next segment called 3 Tears, Jeers, and Tears, we're each going to run down a list of our tears, sad things, jeers, bad things, and cheers, happy things that have happened in the world of sports. So we're going to start with our tears. My tear is the Boston Celtics playoffs hopes. After Kyrie was declared out for the season, the Celtics' title hopes were kind of destroyed. It's unfortunate because the Celtics were the 1 seed for a large portion of the season. Here's to next year, Boston.
Definitely. And my tier is Corey Knebel going down for the Milwaukee Brewers. Obviously, Brewers shirt, Brewers fan. And Corey Knebel, one of the best closers in baseball last year, very young, so a guy that's up and coming. He strained his hamstring. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks. And we already saw that closer role make a difference for the Brewers. They lost a game in the 9th against the Cubs on Saturday. And then last night it took them 10 innings because Matt Albers came in and gave up a run in the 9th. So already starting to miss Corey Knebel. But hopefully he'll be back in mid-May, which would be big for this team.
Definitely. And my tier is Max Holloway, and he had to pull out of UFC 223 this weekend on Saturday, fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov, and it was going to be for the title, and he was not able to make the weight for that, and so then a bunch of guys were supposed to schedule to fight Khabib then. They couldn't do it. Then they had to get the 11th ranked guy, and it just wasn't even a contest. So my tier is missing out on a great title fight.
My tier is Xander Bogaerts going down with an ankle injury after an incredibly hot start, 6 RBIs against the Rays the other day. And he's been swinging a hot bat for the 8-1 Red Sox, kind of fueling that offense. So it's a little scary to me because in the past when he's gone down, it's kind of cooled him down pretty hard. So I'm hoping he can come back strong, but it's definitely concerning.
All right, next we're going to go with our jeers, the bad things that have happened in sport. I'm going to start off with Tony Finau, who is a golfer. He dislocated his ankle while celebrating a hole-in-one at the Masters Par 3 Challenge. He didn't dislocate it while playing. He dislocated while celebrating it. He's kind of redeemed himself because he actually went to finish tied for 10th in the Masters, but I don't think anything more embarrassing could happen in the sport of golf.
And I'm going to stick with golf for my jeer. Patrick Reed, yes, he won, so obviously that's big, but his background, he's had some interesting things. In 2014, he said, "I have 3 wins on the PGA Tour. I truly believe I'm a top 5 player in the world." Only 3 wins there. And at that time, he had never played in a major. And then, of course, took till now. And then he played 1 year at Georgia, but then was dismissed from the team for reasons still unknown. So kind of interesting. Patrick Reed, my jeer.
And my jeer is going to be for Green Bay's Trevor Davis, who made a bomb joke at LAX airport and was arrested for that. And I feel like if there's one thing we've all learned is you shouldn't be talking about bombs at an airport, but apparently Trevor Davis didn't quite get that, and he suffered the penalty for it.
That one really blew up in his face.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Golden rule, never say bomb on a plane. My jeer is Sergio Garcia. At the Masters, hit 5 consecutive balls in the water, and that turned out to be the 13 he had on that hole is tied for the highest ever score in a Masters. And that was on hole 15, and that is known as one of the biggest meltdowns ever.
Yeah. You know, in golf, you don't want a high score.
No, definitely keep it low.
No, you don't.
Keep it low as possible.
We're going to move on to our cheers, and I'm going to start with Shohei Ohtani and his great start for the Los Angeles Angels. He is one of the only, if not the only, pitcher and hitter who is active in the major leagues, some we haven't seen in probably around 100 years for the major leagues. And he had a terrible spring training, but now he's had an electric start to the season. He's got 2 wins, 0 losses, a 2.08 ERA, 18 strikeouts, and 13 innings. Now, while that's a great start for a pitcher, that's not the only thing that he's doing. He's got a .389 batting average, an OPS of 1.31, 3 homers, and 7 RBIs, and only 19 plate appearances. So this guy, he was probably one of the biggest free agent acquisitions in the offseason for the MLB, and he's just been tearing it up for the Angels, and he's one of the reasons why the Angels have gotten off to such a hot start and have people's expectations higher for the rest of the season for the Angels.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can, carry that through the season. I know he struggled in the spring, but he's turned it on here in the regular season. My cheer is going to be yesterday, the Chicago White Sox grounds crew. They're my cheer because the White Sox played yesterday and the Cubs did not. Both Chicago teams, so they're in the same city, but apparently the Cubs ground crew doesn't have as good as a work ethic as the White Sox ground crew because of the snow. There's snow covering both fields, both Wrigley Field and the White Sox field. I can't remember, they just renamed it. Either way, same city, same weather, snow on both fields. The Cubs postponed their game till today. Meanwhile, the White Sox played their game, and so my cheer is the White Sox ground crew, who has a better work ethic and is more perseverant.
Ground crew's getting it done.
They are.
My cheer is for Johnny Manziel, and as you can see, I'm quite the fan of Johnny Manziel, and he had his spring league debut, and he went 9 for 15 for 83 yards and a touchdown. And for me personally, I think it's just the start of the comeback. He's going to make it back to the NFL. Everyone's got to realize it. It's happening, and I can't wait to actually see it.
Where do you think would be the best place for Johnny Manziel to go?
I think the best place for Johnny Manziel, honestly, I think you should go to New York.
Really?
I think you should be a Giant, yeah. They can keep Odell. I know him and Odell have a good relationship. Eli Manning's 58 now. I don't know how old he is, but he's pretty old. So I think Johnny Manziel would be a good fit, even though New York's kind of a distracting city. I think it'd work.
If he got distracted in Cleveland, he'll probably get distracted.
Very true.
In New
Very
York.
true.
Very true. Hey, but Money Manziel, gotta
Money
love it.
Manziel.
Gotta love it. My cheer is Bryce Harper's hot start in the first 10 games. He's got 6 home runs. He's batting .345 and 12 RBIs. I mean, I have to say, I think Bryce Harper is a man fueled by money. He's after that off-season contract, hoping to get that $400 million. But it's really good to see him hitting again because he's had his struggles last year after getting MVP 2 years ago. But I'm digging it, and I hope he keeps it going.
All right, moving on to a segment called Mail Time. We've got questions for these 3 guys on my left. So we are going to start off with Charlie. I've got a question for you. You said you are a big Wolves fan.
Yes.
So with a playoff spot on the line, with the Nuggets at Minnesota, who wins?
Well, unbiased, I think the Wolves win because I think they're craving it. It's been 14 years. We're starving. Ooh, we need that. I've been waiting my whole life to see the Wolves in the playoffs since KG, and I'm really feeling good about this, especially since Jimmy Butler's back. He's going to provide that fire and that fuel for the whole team, and it's at home, so I'm feeling good about it.
Just one thing to note, the Nuggets have won 6 straight games, and they did beat the Wolves the last time they played. Moving on, Alex, we're going to talk about the NFL draft. Lamar Jackson, it's been a little controversy surrounding him, whether he should be a quarterback or a wide receiver. If he stays a quarterback, will he be better or worse than Michael Vick?
I personally think that Lamar Jackson will be better than Michael Vick. Michael Vick even said himself in college, he thinks, or at least from the college what we've seen, he thinks Lamar is better than he was at that point. I think Lamar is faster. I think he has a better ball. And I just think all this wide receiver talk is pretty disrespectful to a guy who won the Heisman, could have arguably won 2 Heisman. And I mean, I think anyone that sleeps on him that needs a quarterback is going to really be eating their words when they see him going up against him on Sundays.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
And now, Hunter, I got a question for you. This weekend, the Brewers and the Cubs played a series, and it was kind of heated between the two teams. People are starting to spark saying it's one of the better rivalries in the MLB. What is your take? What is the best rivalry in the major leagues?
It's interesting because obviously you have the Red Sox and the Yankees, and that's the historic rivalry. But I think fans are kind of getting sick of that rivalry, and I think it's kind of shifting maybe a little bit to, like you said, the Brewers and the Cubs. I don't know if it's the best rivalry in the MLB. I think MLB is kind of trying to find a rivalry right now, but the Brewers and Cubs, especially their fans right now, are in a big rivalry. Whether the Brewers and the Cubs are the best rivalry on the field, that's another debate, because really I don't see any bad blood really between the two teams. Yes, they want to beat each other because they're probably the best 2 teams in the Central, but I think right now baseball's trying to find a rivalry, but if you're going to pick one, I say Brewers-Cubs, and maybe that's just because we're right in the middle of it here in Wisconsin.
You see, even though, like, Brewers and Cubs, they're both good, like this year with the Red Sox and the Yankees, especially with the acquisitions the Yankees made, and, like, New York and Boston, there's always been bad blood between them, and I think between the fans, I think that's going to be the most volatile. It's always been the most volatile, and I think it's going to take a long-standing run. Like, if both Brewers and Cubs, if they're both great for 15 years, maybe then it could start to surpass them, but I don't think it's soon enough for that to happen.
Yeah, I just think with the firepower each of those teams have added, that'll kind of refuel that rivalry, definitely.
All right, moving on, we got a segment called Buy or Sell. I'm going to give you guys a statement. You're going to tell me if you buy it or if you're going to sell it. First off, the Los Angeles Angels have made a hot start. Buy or sell, Angels make the playoffs.
Buy or sell, Angels make the playoffs. I'm going to go with, I'm going to buy it and say they get one of the wild cards, 4 or 5. I don't think they're better than Houston. I think Houston wins the division again, and Houston probably the best team in the AL, but I think the Angels sneak in with a wild card.
I'm going to buy that as well. Angels make the playoffs. I think with Mike Trout, it's just at that point where he needs to really, obviously the stats are there, but he needs to really become the leader of that team and push them in there. I think they're going to do it. I have a hunch this year.
I'm going to sell. I think Mike Scioscia's washed up. I don't think he doesn't have many things to back up how long he's been there. Obviously, Mike Trout is one of the most talented, if not the most talented player in the MLB, and then you've got Ohtani, but I don't think that he can maintain that hot start. I think he'll have a good season, but I don't think he can continue what he's doing.
I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to give you guys a hot take. The Yankees not going to make the playoffs. Moving forward.
I like that. I like that.
Moving forward, buy or sell. The New York Mets, who have also gotten off to a hot start, will win the National League East.
I'm going to sell that. The Nationals, if this would be the ultimate Nationals thing to do, though, if they lose the NL East this year to the Mets, because the Nationals are predicted to, of course, win the division and maybe get to the World Series or get to the NLCS again. But they're 5-5 right now. Mets hot start 8-1, but I think the Mets have some good pitching and their hitting's been good enough to win. But I think the Nationals ultimately come out. So sell.
I am going to buy that, actually. Ooh. I think for the Mets, it's really time for them to become, the not just little baby brother of New York and actually become a big-time team. And I think a lot of Mets fans would want that, too, because obviously in New York, it's the Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. And I think Mets fans and just the Mets organization in general is kind of ready for that ship to sail and, become a power for their own. So I'm going to definitely buy that.
I'm going to sell it because I think the Mets' time was when they were in the World Series and they blew it against the Royals. They had one of the best pitching staffs I've seen in a long time during there, and I think it's kind of watered down a little bit. You still got Thor, which is always a plus, but I really believe in the Nationals. I think they can do it, even though they might have a meltdown like they always do, but I'm really thinking it'll go the other way this time.
Yeah, I'm going to sell it. The Nationals on paper should be like one of the 2 best teams in baseball. but it seems like they keep falling apart. But I do think they'll win their division. Moving forward, the Los Angeles Rams, who made a ton of offseason moves that they seem to be going for it right now. Buy or sell, the Los Angeles Rams will win the NFC and make it to the Super Bowl.
Oh, gosh. This means I'm going to have to pick against the Packers if I say buy, so I'm going to sell it. I just can't do it yet. Jared Goff, I think he's good, but I think he's 1 year too young. I say they win it next year.
Just like you, with the Packers, I'm quite biased, but I'm going to go with, I think the acquisitions they made with Talib and with Peters and obviously Ndamukong Suh, I think they're going to probably do it this year. They have the talent.
I mean, that defense is completely revamped. You've got 2 top corners taking over the friggin' sides. I mean, Peters is unbelievable. I've seen him do some incredible things. He's a ball hawk. I think they have the pieces now with the 4 acquisitions. They're all superstars, and I mean, I hate to go against my Vikings. I love them, but, Kirk Cousins won't be enough to beat that squad.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do our last word. Everyone gives a little bit of a rant. But first, let's take a look at some of those WMCM promos.
Our campus. April is National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Throughout the entire month, we will be sitting at booths at various locations around campus. Stop on by to learn how sexual assault affects the UWL campus. Follow our campaign's progress at facebook.com/PolishOurCampus and instagram.com/PolishOurCampus. Together we can polish our campus.
Explore your fitness. Explore healthy eating. Explore your health. Staying healthy in college can be hard. Living Lacrosse makes it easy with simple tips and tricks for anyone and everyone. From cooking to exercising, Living Lacrosse is here to help you live your best life. Catch Living Lacrosse Tuesdays at 2:45 or 4:30 on WMCM Campus Channel 200 or Charter Channel 989. Living Lacrosse, the collegiate guide to health.
Welcome back. We are going to jump into our last word where we each give a little bit of a rant on a subject that we think is pertinent. Hunter, we're going to start off with you.
Yeah, I think the Milwaukee Bucks fans should not worry about the draft pick that they could get if they get the 6th seed, but instead hope that the Bucks can get the 7th seed and play the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. And this is the reason why. The Bucks are not in a position where they have to worry about building for the future. The future is now. They started this brand a couple years ago with Own the Future, and if you're going to own the future eventually has to come, and now it has come. So with Giannis, with Jabari, with Chris Middleton, they got Eric Bledsoe, they have all the pieces. Now they need to go out and they need to win a playoff series and get that playoff experience so that next year they can be even better with that opening of the new stadium. So fans, if you're a Bucks fan, be sure to root for them, maybe even to lose tomorrow night to the 76ers. So then they get to the 7th seed and have to play Boston, which would be an easier route in the playoffs. Kind of interesting, kind of, not exactly what you'd think, but we'll see what happens. But Bucks, they need to play for now and not for the future. It doesn't matter about that 1st round pick.
I could not agree more with your rant. And for my rant, sticking with the NBA, I'm going to go with NBA Rookie of the Year. And it's obviously between Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons, but I think Ben Simmons should not be the Rookie of the Year solely because he is not a rookie. I don't care if he didn't play his first year. He had NBA, training, at NBA strength training. He got to see the games firsthand, practice against the team when he was healthy. And so I do not think he should be Rookie of the Year. He's averaging 16, 8, and 8. We all know he's the best player in this rookie class technically, but Donovan Mitchell is averaging 23 and 3, and his team is in the playoffs. So I think you have to give it to Donovan Mitchell, and you can't keep thinking that the Sixers are redshirting all these rookies and basically still calling them rookies. You're getting mad for them not winning Rookie of the Year award. I think if you sit out for a full year, you should not be able to win Rookie of the Year award. Donovan Mitchell deserves it. We know how good Ben Simmons is. He's LeBron's protege. We all know that, but it's not time.
Okay. Let me get this straight, Cleveland Browns fans. The Cleveland Browns might pick Josh Allen with the #1 overall pick for their quarterback of the future. If they do that, they're throwing their franchise in the tank even more than it's already been. Let me give you a little bit of background on this. Josh Allen, in his final year at Wyoming, He played 11 games and threw 16 touchdowns. That's nothing special. Only 6 picks, but 16 touchdowns, nothing special. His completion percentage was 56.3, which is worse than Cam Newton's. And Cam Newton can at least run a little bit. Josh Allen is just this big tank who is like 6'7", and just because he has the cannon doesn't mean that he's going to be the quarterback of the future. They should go with someone like Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold and be safe with their pick. If they pick Josh Allen, they're throwing their franchise in the tank even more. Well, that's going to do it for us here today. Big game in the NBA tonight. Tomorrow night, excuse me. Yeah. Wolves, Nuggets, deciding that final spot in the playoffs. It's going to be a big one. Thanks for watching Hot Shots Sports.
For sure.
That is all for us.